What's up, everybody? King of Fomo here, coming at you with your daily crypto update. Today we're going to be talking about Pulsechain. I'm going to give you guys a hot take on the Pulsechain ecosystem. We are going to be talking about why Pulse is better than PulseX in the long term. I know this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way in the Pulsechain ecosystem that are gung-ho about everything related to Pulse, PulseX, and Hex, but I do believe that in the long run, this is something that is likely to play out. So before we get into that, let's just talk about the new happenings in the Pulsechain ecosystem overall. We are having a nice recovery, so some numbers that you have to look at for Pulse to see if it's doing well is the liquidity. So the liquidity has started to creep back up again. From a low of $277 million and up to today we're about $382 million. It's a pretty nice increase over the past couple days. Some other things to note is we also have new exchanges, new apps, new dApps coming out on the Pulsechain ecosystem. This one right here is Daytona Finance. Now definitely stay tuned for my live stream for the full overview of this. There are some caveats with exchanges like this if you guys are new to these things, but they do have some cool stuff here for you to do more with your Pulse and PulseX and all that stuff, and that includes getting some of this juicy APR. Now gone are the days where we had juicy APR in the PulseX ecosystem. I mean, they're still pretty good. 400% is still not tiny amounts, but that 2000% is now long gone. You can move over to other exchanges like this, provided that they stay popular and legitimate and get some of those juicy returns of 2000% with some of these farms over here. So definitely check these out if you are looking to make a bit of a larger return than what you're seeing on PulseX. They also have single staking pools here too, which is something that PulseX does not have. So this is a nice little bonus addition to it. And they have some cool coins here too, like the more tokens and incentive. So if you're just holding tokens by themselves, this might be a good project to jump into. But again, there are caveats like this, that like the 4% fee that is here and a little bit more risk that's associated with the contract. But definitely check out Daytona Finance. I want to do a deep dive in this video a little bit later. But like I said, in this video, we want to talk mainly about Pulse versus PulseX. But before we get into that, the last thing we can take a look at is just the price overall of Pulse. Pulse is starting to recover. Again, we had that local low of about 0.0001 what is it, Satoshi or cents, within 0.0001 cents, and we've recovered to almost 50% higher than that at 0.00015 cents. So really nice recovery in just a couple days. Those of you who bought the bottom, I was one of the people that said, this is really low. And I was talking about this in my live stream. I bought it about like right here, so I had a nice return from that, and that's really helpful when we have these massive dumps. If you can time those little lowers right there, if you can have a stack of cash set aside to sort of dollar cost average and put you in a good position after a massive dump like we just had, you're going to be less nail biting for the price of where we are right now compared to its all-time high. All right, so let's get into the topic of the day: PulseX versus Pulse. Why does King of Fomo more bullish on Pulse over PulseX? So like I said, this is a little bit of a hot take. The main reason why so many people are extremely bullish on PulseX, and this is not everyone has their own opinions, and some people like everything equally. Some people do like Pulse more than PulseX, but some people just say PulseX is gonna blow Pulse out of the water and go up 100-fold. And one of the reasons why is because it has this feature called buy and burn, right? It burns a ton of its own supply, and a lot of that is driven from the PulseX main exchange. If people are doing trades over there on PulseX, no matter what token they're trading, some PulseX is going to be burned from the fees of people trading back and forth in there. So provided there's a lot of volume happening on the PulseX ecosystem, yes, you're going to burn a ton of tokens. And people are also extrapolating out, saying, you know what, if PulseX really takes off, if the Pulse chain really takes off, and we get more hundreds of millions of dollars in volume on a daily basis in here, it is really going to affect the price of PulseX. So, those are things to keep note of, and yes, those are all good, valid points. But here's King of FOMO's opinion on burnable tokens. And I've been around the game for a long time, and I've seen plenty of tokens that sort of drive themselves off of their main feature being that they burn themselves. They get rid of their supply. And I think that after lots of research and trial and error and just seeing lots of other coins do this method of sort of pumping their coin or giving value to their coin based on the fact that it burns itself, it doesn't really work out in the end, even though it might work out on paper in just logistically, realistically, it doesn't really work out in the end, just because of the way that it's set up. The majority of people are expecting massive profit from this burn, and when you have lots of people expecting the same thing, usually the opposite happens. Okay, so that's the first point, and this is also my opinion. Whenever a new coin comes out, this is not a big knock on PulseX, because it's an okay feature, but whenever a new coin comes out and the main feature of that new coin is it's going to make you rich because it's going to burn itself, I usually stay away from that, because again, it doesn't often work out that way. There's often other things that are in play there when it comes to that. And essentially what happens is if it doesn't work out the way that people are anticipating in a short amount of time, if it doesn't pump a lot because supply is burning after 6 months or a year, people lose faith pretty quickly. And again, if that is your only really thing that propping up your coin from the get-go, you're gonna have a hard time convincing people that your coin is good if it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do, which is burn itself and pump. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be careful with PulseX. But the other main reason is you just have to think about how the whole ecosystem works. So again, the main feature for PulseX is buy and burn. Now that only occurs with trading on PulseX. So if we have, let's just say, Goldilocks moment, we have tons and tons of volume and users using the Pulsechain in the future, and they're using PulseX, this is probably going to be something that happens. People are probably going to, number one, get access to some of these great coins on centralized exchanges, which is not going to do anything when it comes to PulseX burning itself. And centralized exchanges have more volume than decentralized exchanges overall, if you're looking at things overall, comparing Uniswap to all centralized exchanges. But the other thing, and the final thing to really note here is, what if another decentralized exchange takes over as the top spot here in PulseX? And doesn't do that burn feature that PulseX has. And I think that is a likely scenario. Why is that the case? Well, because the way that PulseX is structured, a lot of the fees that are baked into the system go into buying and burning PulseX. Well, what's to stop somebody from developing another exchange where instead of those fees going to buying and burning PulseX, those fees go to the liquidity providers, which are the people providing liquidity on the platform. So you got to think about it in game theory in that way. Why would people come to PulseX to burn a token that they might not have, right? A token that they might not have faith in, a token that they're not providing liquidity for, when they're going to make less than going to another decentralized exchange that's created in the future where they're going to get more from the fees. I mean, it's just simple knowledge there. If I'm a person that's providing liquidity, and as long as there's trading volume growing and happening on a separate exchange, I'm going to want to jump in on that exchange that gives me better fees, and I'm not really going to care too much about the PulseX people. So I think that is a very likely scenario, and I'm talking long term. If you zoom out a couple years, we have seen things like that happen as well. We've seen exchanges sort of take over as the top exchanges in the ecosystem just because they have better fee structures. So that's my opinion on Pulse versus PulseX. Again, I know it's a hot take. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me in the comments section and tell me how I'm wrong, but go ahead, feel free to do that. We can talk about it in the live stream next time I do a live stream. And yeah, I'm open to hearing other people's opinions and potentially changing my mind in the future, but that's the way that I've been thinking about this ever since this thing has launched. Alright guys, that is everything for today. I'll catch you in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're not a Patreon member, consider becoming a Patreon member. I will be done working soon so I can dedicate more time to videos like this and finding, you know, projects like Daytona Finance that are out on Pulsechain where you can, you know, earn a lot from here. I did actually see this on day one, and yeah, but we'll talk about Daytona Finance in a separate video. There's some risk involved with this, which is why I didn't talk about it on day one. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.